Universities do to improve parking situation for campus for for off-campus slash commuter students by Nathan, me, Salma, and Nate. Our group members are, like I said earlier, Justin, me, Nate, and Nate 2.0, and Salma. Okay. For the table of content, first we'll be doing an introduction. I'll just be introducing our problem and our topic that we're going to be discussing. Second, Nate will be analyzing the problem. He'll be telling you guys what the problem it is and how it works and why it's a problem. And then our other Nate will give solutions, and Sama will also give solutions to the problem and conclusion. For introduction, as a commuter student, I have to wake up early enough to shower, eat, drink my coffee, get dressed, and hit the road. But all that isn't the problem. Did you know I have to be here at 8:30 max to guarantee parking spot while paying $130 a parking permit every damn semester? The most frustrating part about this is that they give staff members 2 floors to park. When I come at 8:30, the third and fourth floor are full, while the first and second are empty. And I'm talking empty. Like I'll be coming here on Mondays and Tuesdays is mostly annoying days because like I get to my first class starts at like at 11 or something. Not something 11, but I have to be here a little early because I have to find parking. Otherwise, I don't. And if I don't come early, the first and second floor are always like, if not empty. I mean, there's cars in there. Obviously, there's staff, but then they clearly don't need that many space for parking. And then you go up to the third and fourth floor, what you pay for, and there's zero parking. So you spend the time losing sometimes class time, and as a commuter you never know what could happen on the road. Like sometimes a day you could get out and then it could be like an open freeway, but then you gave your time enough space to get to Chico because you gave yourself time to find that parking spot. And sometimes you're like, okay, yesterday the freeway was empty, today has to be empty, right? So you get on that freeway and it's packed, and there's always these two grandmas that drive right next to each other, not letting everybody pass them, and then you have to go 65 and end up being late to class, all because you can't find parking. So as a commuter, it's just like very frustrating parking spots while having to pay for them. Chico State University is facing exacerbated parking challenges this fall, with fewer available space due to the conversion of general permit spots to reserved spaces for facility. So in today's presentation, we would like to bring in some ways to help end this frustration and hopefully make the change by next semester.
Analyzing the problem. What is the extent of your problem? On most university campuses, there isn't enough parking for students, teachers, and staff, and others who want to visit the campus. This causes people to be late to classes, get parking tickets, rush, and cause unnecessary stress. With limited parking and many students having to commute to school, this is a big issue. How harmful, serious, widespread is it? It is very harmful as teachers and students run late to class, which leads to lost learning time, missing exams, and many overpriced parking tickets because they couldn't find a parking spot. In an article by the Los Angeles Times, it states, even the professors sometimes struggle, coming in 15 or 20 minutes late to class, saying they just couldn't find parking. We all have a mutual understanding that parking is horrible. This parking problem is very widespread, as almost every major CSU or university in the country has a shortage of parking for all students and staff. A survey by Melissa in 2022 of 2,000 undergraduate students shows that 60% of students believe there is not enough adequate parking for their university. This is a serious problem and it needs to be fixed. I personally have I'm not trying to blame my art teacher, but my art teacher has come in late to class many times because he has said that he could not find any parking. And that is a big issue because our class loses out on learning time. So what are the effects of the problem? Who is affected? How? The effects of the problem is the lack of parking causes many people to run late for classes or to have to come to school very early just to get a parking spot. An article by the Iron interviewed a Chico State College student who stated, "It got even worse during my second semester when I found myself forced to get to campus before 8 a.m. every day. I was left sitting on campus for nearly 4 hours every day waiting for my noon class in order to keep my spot because if I waited until 8:30 a.m., all the spots would be gone. Who is affected? Students, teachers, staff are the main people affected by shortage of parking. Commuter students who live far away off campus are especially affected as most of the time walking and biking are not an option. This leaves them having to drive and find parking. I'm lucky enough where I do live on campus. I live in the dorm, so this is not an issue for me. But I know some of my friends who live off campus, it's a real issue because they have to either come to school super early to try and find a parking spot, which just leaves them waiting around all day, or they just kind of know going in that they're going to be 20 minutes late to class because there's not enough parking and they don't have a parking permit or they can't afford it because it's very expensive. What are the causes of the problem? Limited campus parking is the main cause of the problem. Only a certain amount of parking passes are given out each year, leaving the rest to try and find street parking. At big universities with thousands of students and staff, this causes a major issue. Most campus parking requires a specific type of parking pass to park there. Without a parking pass, you will get a ticket, leading many students to try and find street parking even if there's open spots. With so many students and staff having to find street parking, there just isn't enough spots for everybody. What is currently being done to help solve the problem? Many commuter programs have been established at universities to help off-campus students find rides to school. Specifically at Chico State, they offer a program to ride the bus for free using your ID card. Chico also offers a shuttle from University Village, I think it's called. But the problem with that is the shuttle only comes at certain times during the school day. So if you don't have a class at that specific time that the shuttle comes on, you either have to walk or bike to campus, which is far. It's really far. It's like a 30-minute walk, or you just have to go to school early and wait around to your class. So that's another problem. Some universities have added more bike racks and even electric scooter and skateboard racks. An article by Ride Amigos says that some schools like the University of Arizona use reward programs for students. It states, at the University of Arizona, campus community members who choose smart commuting modes can earn points if that they can redeem for a variety of awards like Fitbits, Beats headphones, and university gear. In addition, just for signing up for the program, users are eligible for 5 free emergency ride-home vouchers. While most schools don't have the space or funding to add parking lots, they're coming up with more creative ways to find transportation to school. Why does this problem continue to exist? Simply put, most universities don't have the funds to create new parking lots. They have to fund many other things, and adding extra parking isn't one of them. Also, a lot of time and sacrifice is required to fix a huge problem with limited parking. With so many different issues schools face, limited parking is not a priority on their list.
So now I'll be presenting the possible solutions to our problem. To solve the problem, we should consider what is needed, like money, who would pay for it, where would the money come from, and how much would it cost. Time, like how long would it take for our solution to solve our problem. These criteria are important because we need to know if the solution we pick is actually achievable and would it be realistic. Some of the possible solutions that we came up with would be for the university to encourage biking, to encourage public transportation, walking, carpool. Students could park at metered parking. They can build more parking structures, and they could even assign students to their own designated parking spot. The majority of these solutions have been tried, but they've not all worked because they wouldn't work for everyone. The school has somewhat successfully promoted students to bike, walk, and use public transportation. The positives of biking, walking, and using public transportation would be that there would be less cars on the road, which would cause less pollution, and also parking spots wouldn't be taken up as much. Same goes for carpools, there would be less cars and not as much spaces would be used. For metered parking, students wouldn't struggle as much to find a spot, and they would only pay for it when they really need it. If the school were to build more parking structures, the positives would obviously be that there would be more parking spots. Same goes for assigning students their own designated parking spot, they wouldn't struggle as much and they'd get to school on time. On the other hand, biking wouldn't work for everyone because of their distance from campus. Some students can live pretty far and it would take too long to bike to class. Same goes for walking, it would take way too long for them. The problem with public transportation would be student schedules. Their schedules will not always align with the schedule of the bus, or the times will just not be convenient for them and they will miss the bus and not get to class on time. Carpooling would also be affected by schedules because if you have a friend, they won't have the same schedule as you, so you guys can't really go together. Metered parking would also be affected by schedules because depending on the time limit and the length of your class, you can miss the time limit, which would cause students to get tickets. The negatives of building more parking structures would be the cost of it. I did research and I found an article that said that the average cost of building a parking structure in California would be around $340 million. So where would that money come from? Building them would also take a very long time, so the problem wouldn't be resolved right away. Assigning students their own designated parking spot would also require some building because of the amount of students that drive to school, so that wouldn't solve the problem right away, but it can be more effective. Nate actually suggested assigning students their own designated parking spot, and as a group we agreed that it would be a pretty good idea, so we decided to add it to the list of possible solutions. Overall, none of these solutions are perfect, but some are better than others when we consider their positives and negatives. Some of these solutions can affect the students more negative than positively, but some of them can affect them more positively than negatively. It really just depends on how far the student is from campus. It also depends on their schedules. When it comes to the last two solutions that are building more parking structures and deciding students their own designated parking, the main question there would be money. Where would the money come from? As a group, we discussed that more of our tuition should go towards fixing this problem of the issue of parking. Although this might cause the cost of tuition to go up, it already go up anyway, so might as well use it towards parking. We also discussed which possible solution would be the best, depending on their positives and negatives. So now I'll let Nate talk to you guys about which one we chose and why.
Parking has long been an issue with commuter students, and we have found a solution to all parking problems. No longer would you be missing class because of having nowhere to park, and you would always be able to know exactly where and when you could have a spot open at school. Spots would have to be numbered and have sensors installed into them, which would send data in real time to a computer hub. This control center would set up a system of reserved times in which you could use the spots that would take into account everyone's schedules. You would pay to reserve a spot for a metered amount of time in the app and would get guaranteed parking during your class time. If you weren't going to class on a certain day, someone else would be able to use that spot in the meantime. If there was a shortage of spots, it would prioritize those with disabilities and people going to class in order to make sure everyone is able to find a parking spot when they need to. An app would simplify all of this down to paying for a duration of parking on your phone and then following the built-in map to your exact parking spot. No more circling around the lot next to the gym and getting to class late. The system would use a grouping system to minimize traffic in a certain area and optimize the spaces closest to your class and would figure it all out on its own. This is an eco-friendly solution to traffic as it would simply simplify parking and reduce the amount of time spent driving in circles burning gas. The biggest challenges would be the time it takes installing all the separate spot numbers and sensors and finding funding for this project. Parking funding is not provided by the state, and Chico would need to find this money in raising parking rates or a grant. This would be very expensive, as we have a few gravel lots that would need to be repaved and have sensors added. This project would take multiple months and would be preferably be done over the summer, as temporarily not having any parking at all would be a bit of an issue. The legal issues would be coming from students parking in town while the lots are under construction. All the lots in town close to school would be filled and parking would be way worse for a time. Ethically, there would be problems unless the school would let students use the reserved lots while the old lots are transformed, letting everyone park in the extra spaces. A potential problem would be if there's a large event at school and more parking spaces are needed for visitors. For example, Parents' Day or a game. If this was the case, we would prioritize college students with class, although if you paid, you would probably get a spot. The short-term potential negatives are heavily outweighed by the long-term benefits, though, as future parking at Chico State would be as simple as downloading an app.